Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. My name is Greg Elliott, and today, as always, joined by my good friend and wonderful co-host, Zach Ingo Finch. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, all right. It was good. Saw you in person today. We actually did a bit of office work, had a bit of an office day, had some good food, caught up with one of our good friends. Yeah, it was a good day.
Yeah, it's been a good day, yeah. Passing chips in the night when it comes to office work, but there we go, that's the way it goes.
It's just like that sometimes, mate, isn't it?
It is WILDCARD Wednesday today, and we thought we'd take a small step away from the very busy goings-on this week as we head towards fixture release coming tomorrow. We've got some great episodes coming up when we talk about what fixtures we're most looking forward to and reacting to that. But today, I thought I'd take a trip a bit down, the history of my family of football. We've alluded to it on the show in the past that, I'm really until I started working on this podcast, I was the only member of my family that hadn't, in some capacity, done something to do with football. So it's quite a long and storied history. And so I thought I'd touch on that a bit. And I've got some great history to touch on. I had some email correspondence with the club museum for Charlton Athletic, who my dad used to play for. So I've got some fun stuff from his contract that we'll get to a bit later on. But I guess, as far back as the history I know, my granddad was the first of my family to really sort of become successful in football. He was semi-professional, I believe, for Gravesend. And his first contract, his wage was high for the time. He got paid £3 a week.
That's mad. What a day! It's incomparable, isn't it? £3 a week to what they're being paid now. Obviously, I understand that's adjusted for inflation because that would have been do you know what sort of time period that was?
Yeah, so that would have been almost. Oh, in fact, he would have been playing basically immediately post-war. So he would be 1947, right around then.
That's crazy.
He went straight out of the Air Force and straight onto the football pitch. So, and then so that was Gravesend. That was where he met my nan during the war, and they have a long story history. And he was from Albrook eventually, but went up to Gravesend because that was where Nan was from. And then they both moved back down to Eastleigh, and because he was from Albrook, obviously Saints fan. And that's the connection, Then you follow your dad's team, and then he follows his dad's team, and that's it. We're just, from the very get-go, we never stood a chance. But then later on in life, he had my dad, who his first job when he finished school was he went and took on an apprenticeship at Charlton. Is actually what he did.
So he literally always worked in football then. So it wasn't because I didn't know if it was sort of he joined later. It was a semi-professional. Because obviously, you see how it is nowadays, right? Where they all kind of they're in football from 8. Right? A lot of them even younger, right? I look at your you've been training up your boy from an early age, and a sort of they all seem to start from it's the first and only thing they ever do. But I thought that was kind of rarer with people sort of players way back when. So to go to do an apprenticeship immediately afterwards is crazy.
Yeah, I think it was pretty uncommon, to be honest. He I think he considered himself very lucky.
Yeah, I bet.
And we'll go into some of the bits, but but by the time sort of he settled down and had me, he was quite a bit older, and he was working for I think 4 Boys, a shop, a chain of shops locally as an area manager. So he was sort of long past football, and so it was only after we lost him, unfortunately, that I got a huge book that him and his mum, my nan, collected of lots of newspaper cutouts and trimmings from all of his time and all of his games as he sort of progressed through the world of football. And I had no idea. But I've got a team sheet from his debut here. So he started off as an apprentice, and they didn't have academies and stuff back then. But he would, go in and shine the first team's boots and do all of the kits and whatever apprentices did back then. But his debut, I believe, or at least from the first sort of team sheet that the club historian at Charlton could find him on, places him in 1965 when he would have been 16.
Damn.
And he started for Charlton, who were playing in white shirts with red yolks, which is just an amazing piece of lost history. Whoever called shorts yolks? And they were playing against Brighton in his debut.
That's crazy because, like, especially you think now, like Brighton being like a powerhouse, but they're quite an established Premier League team. Charlton are now on their way back up to the Championship, being led by a former Saint, so we're very sort of aware of them. And growing up, Charlton were a Premier League team. For when I was younger, so yeah, it's kind of nuts that there's like this almost hidden piece of history. And as you said, like when you were growing up with your dad, obviously I know your dad used to take you to football and stuff. But had
Yeah.
he just had his job, right, as area manager of Four Boys and then not said anything to you, would you have ever known?
Like we talked about it a bit, but it was just never really like came up. Like my nan had in her living room a photo that I've still got. I believe it's up in my lounge of him as a young professional footballer doing keepy uppies with a football. And like it's a proper, like when you think of an old school football, like
the old, like brown leather ones.
Yeah, and but it was just like oh yeah, Dad used to play football. I'm sure everyone's dad used to play football. You just never think of it,
right? Because it's like everyone's dad had like a trial at West Ham or Leeds or something like that, right? That's a common thing that like you hear from people. Like, there's people I know who's like, yeah, well, I would have made it professional if it wasn't for my knee injury at 21. And in some cases, that might be true. Like, who am I to say? But it does seem like an embellishment that a lot of people kind of put out there, and yet with you, it was sort of like the more I discussed with you, more I was like, hang on, so your dad actually was a professional footballer? It's like, oh yeah, I'm a granddad. Granddad was semi-professional. I'm like, that must have been like 40s, 50s, like trying to wrap my head around all of that information. And like, it's kind of crazy. And the fact that you've got all of that history, though, is a nice reminder. And the fact that, I think that we were looking back at some of the older episodes of the FA Cup. Do you remember those?
Yes.
And we were looking at like some of the statistics they found, right? Like the amount of the size of the crowd and some of the information they had, and like this person was subbed off after 15 minutes for this reason. And it's the fact that it's like so well recorded that you could just like, if you wanted to chase down all of the information, you theoretically could chase down all of that information. And that's like, I guess, a wonder to have, because a lot of people think about that and can't.
And aside from the photos that I've been sent from the historians at Charlton Football Club, this was a couple of years ago. I was in communication with them. They've got a pretty good breakdown, which after the break I'm going to share with you, because actually there's an amusing tidbit from this very Brighton game that I'm looking at the programme of, where he's in the starting 11. But we will get to that after a message from our partners at Bioniq.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body.
Okay, and we are back. So, so they have sent me a little breakdown from their history of a bit of their scouting information about my dad and
so
what he
strange.
achieved in his time at Charlton. So it's got that he was born. So Ray Elliott, born in Eastleigh, educated at Derby Road Primary School and Toynbee Road Secondary School. Eastleigh Schoolboys, played for Hampshire Schoolboys, and played for the Pirelli youth team in Southampton, which is, just nuts. Which, I'm sure that a lot of our listeners who are Saints fans have some connection to Eastleigh and will know that everyone in Eastleigh has some connection to the railway, Pirelli, or Ford. That's just that's just Eastleigh history. He signed as a Charlton amateur for 1963 as an apprentice and became full professional on the 9th of July 1965. For the Charlton youth team, the Colts, in the 62-63 season, 63-64 season, and 64-65 season, he played 4 combination matches where he scored 1 goal, and he played in 6 Metropolitan League matches where he scored 1 goal. He was a striker, so that's still better statistics than some of our strikers put up these days. So, he played 11 combination matches and scored 9 goals, and 21 Metropolitan League matches where he scored 8 goals in the 64-65 season. And then the debut was actually for the reserves in this programme I've been sent from the game on the 27th of February 1965. It was in a stormy match against Brighton and Hove Albion. It was a 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, and he got sent off.
Oh, it's almost like I know where you and your boy get it from. You should edit out that other bit.
Yeah. And then in the 1965-66 season, so this was the year he became professional, he got 28 combination matches with 7 goals and 7 Metropolitan League matches where he scored 3 goals. It actually says from his scouting report here, Ray's father, Stan, is a former Gravesend player and was reported to once have had a trial for Charlton, which, even reading this back now, I didn't remember that.
That's nuts.
And then he transferred in 1966, in March. He transferred to Exeter City, where he signed a 1-year contract. He played 28 league games and scored 3 goals.
So that's so I thought, because it's been a long time, Greg, and I've been your friend for many years. I've never asked your dad's name, so whenever I would Google your surname, turns out basically there are thousands of people with the surname Elliott. So I googled him a second ago, and the first thing that's come up is an archive from Exeter City Football Club with a I don't know if you've seen this link, with a literal bio of your dad. It's crazy.
No,
and a photo, and I can pull up this photo, and obviously listeners can't see, but I can pull up this photo and compare it side by side. I'm like, yeah, that's that's so weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then and so I lost my dad at quite a young age, like we touched before, and so specifically when I was becoming a father, I sort of had this deep need to go and find out more about my dad, because I only had my memories of my dad and none of it was about football. And so I reached out to all of the football clubs he played for. So he played for, he went on after Exeter to play for Poole Town. He also played for Yeovil. And I reached out to all the clubs, and actually it wasn't until a couple of years after I had sort of been reaching out to these clubs that I actually got a reply from Charlton. And Charlton are the only club so far who have got back to me. And I'm not saying that I've been chasing this on a regular basis. In fact, this correspondence with Charlton was it was in 2020 actually. So it's which was a time of a lot of reflection for a lot of us. So it's pretty clear, but yeah, it's fascinating to have gone through, and I'm gonna touch on after the break the one time that it really became sort of apparent to me how big of a deal it was in his life. But first, a message from our partners at Zencastr. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Okay, so we're back. I also wanted to touch upon a famous family story. Because obviously my dad had me when he was quite a bit older, and I have an older brother, a much older brother, and famously, as his mum was giving birth to him, my dad was there and present for the birth, and then immediately had to leave to go and play in a football game.
That's so, because you hear those stories and you're like, that's crazy, and you sort of see like, oh, congratulations, and you hear about those kind of things, that happen during games. It's like, this player today has had to like disappear off, and he's just come back. He's not slept at all, and he managed to score a goal or whatever. And it's just so strange because.
Oh yeah, I can't remember if he nearly didn't make the birth because he had been playing and was rushed into the hospital, or if it was the other way around. But it was a tale of family legend and often hilarity. But what I actually wanted to talk about was the time that it did become apparent to me. So it was. I remember the day so vividly. It was my first ever away game. And it was at the Valley, and it was Charlton versus Saints. And we'd been going to St Mary's quite regularly at this point, sort of as often as we could. And, James Beattie was in the form of his life, scoring goals left, right and centre for us. It was good times. And my dad had managed to use one of his contacts, and it turns out that one of the attacking midfielder, I believe, of his team that he, played at the Charlton Colts with for all these seasons, was a man called Alan Peacock, who at the time was the assistant manager for Charlton, which was crazy, right? Like that was the moment that blew my mind. I'm like, oh, like it was a big deal. Like Charlton are a big club, and
it's not
someone
like...
who's still involved in the club, and he managed to arrange it for us, and we went up and we met with him really early before the game, and I got to go and walk around the Valley and got a tour of the dressing rooms and of the pitch, and I don't know. Obviously, this was at this point maybe 15 years ago, but as you come out of the dressing rooms at the Valley, there's a huge long corridor all the way down to the tunnel, and it's just a straight line. And on both sides of the walls, before it gets to obviously the pitch and the tunnel, they have all of the team photos of the Charlton first teams through the years, all the way back. And so we were doing this tour, and we were just, looking around, and he's like, oh, look, there's your dad. I'm like, just in this team photo in the tunnel of the Valley, like the most mind-blowing experience. And
it's fascinating because it's a job that there's not a lot of people that do it, mate. There's such a small percentage of people that go on to get to like that dream, and then it's fascinating because obviously then the years later, like the careers after football nowadays, you've got punditry and all that kind of stuff, and back then they would just go back into like society, right? And then you've just got all of this history and legacy, and it's incredible. And shout out to club historians. I found it, as somebody that studied history as a degree, I understand the value of historians. And also, like, one of the things I think that really upset me when Manchester United started making cuts was they cut their club historian. And it's things like these personal stories that are like make that kind of stuff so important. Yeah. Because you have somebody that's able to provide you with this information and a connection to your loved ones that your dad who you'd lost, and to be able to give you sort of that information, but to be able to have that moment in a stadium where it just like literally blew your mind, it's just incredible, man. That's so good. That's so cool.
And like I don't know if it was or like, how organised it was, or if it was just because we were there. But we also obviously went and like looked around the club shop, and then we found like this book of like Charlton through the ages, and there he was in that book as well. And it was just, and then I got to go out on the pitch, and we stood on the pitch, and then it's like, oh, your ticket's good for hospitality. You can stay up in the hospitality area if you want. And then at that point, my dad was like, well, he's in his Saints shirt and you're not going to shut him up. So we've got tickets in the away end. I think we're probably best out there. And, and that's the core memory, like that mind-blowing experience. And also standing on the exact spot on the pitch on the Valley that James Beattie scored the winning free kick from when we won 2-1. Like, it was just like such a core memory of that game. And, it's amazing. It just really blew my mind. That was like the moment where it really, the penny dropped.
It's incredible because it's things like that as well that, like, we with the job that we do, we're quite privileged to be able to get opportunities to go to stadiums and Premier League stadiums far more than most people. Other than maybe a pitch invasion that happened the other year, there's not really a lot of opportunities you really get to go into playing fields, and it's like. And I remember you saying, "Oh, I'm really annoyed because I didn't go into tickets to play on like unspecific ground." And I'm like, "But this year you've managed to play at Luton. You play at St Mary's every year. You've had this opportunity to like stand on, especially back then where as you'd have been younger, like you probably didn't expect it as much." And
not even a little bit because
fascinating,
like,
mate.
it was, he'd also like done such a good job of like underselling it to me as well. It's like, I'll take you on your first away day. We'll go up to Charlton. I used to play for Charlton. It'd be quite cool. Maybe we'll see if we can hook up with anyone there. And it was just the most incredible day. And like, I remember all of it so vividly because actually we were supposed to, we were on like a week off and we were supposed to come back from Wales a day earlier and we didn't. And then we got held up. And then so like we didn't get back from Wales the night before until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, oh, we got to get up at 6 to get down to Charlton on time and drive there. And I just like remember the whole day so vividly. Like, it's such a core memory, and it's just like genuinely mind blowing. But
but I'm so happy for you to have that memory and to have have the access to the information and to be able to experience this and like know what your dad did and it's like it's silly stuff where we talk about why football means a lot and it means a lot of things to different people, and like with you, clearly you have a connection to your dad there and obviously a connection to your boy as well. And you yourself, like as much as you might like to think, well, I didn't go into football, you did at one point, do a lot of wrestling when you were younger. That was your sport of choice, right? That was that was where you decided to go down instead. But it's like it's fascinating, and even the clubs he went to after, like obviously Saints fans will be familiar with Paul Town, as that's where Charlie Austin played when he first started and broke through. Like Exeter, I've got family there. Everybody's heard of Exeter City, and even Yeovil, right? Like they're a classic sort of non-league team that you always try and bring up to the Premier League. It's all 100%. These and all these things. It's I think
I've got no doubt in my mind that we probably have listeners, amongst you who are of a certain
demographic,
a certain vintage that may well have seen my dad play football back in the day. And in fact, as a real sort of nice point to touch on to sort of come full circle, football became very important again in my life when I met my wife, because my wife's dad was the biggest West Brom fan, and I have had hundreds of programs from his travels where he used to travel all around the country watching West Brom before he sort of moved a bit closer to here. And I have many great memories of going to St Mary's with him to watch West Brom games and other games, and famously the worst game of football he said he'd ever seen live, which was Saint Stoke, which was honestly impressive because he was a West Brom fan. But actually we did the maths and worked it out, and actually we worked out that he had seen my dad play football in the 60s against West Brom for Charlton in one of the games.
Man,
Just
it's like
like
the
a
6 degrees of
crazy,
separation, mate, isn't it? As well, all that kind of all the
absolutely.
connections you've got. But yeah,
That's it.
it's wild, and like you imagine trying to explain to your dad now that you do a daily podcast around Southampton Football Club.
Yeah,
Like we talk about football on a daily basis and how much of an impact that it has on our lives as well as everybody else's,
and
and how it is more than just a game to a lot of people, I think.
that's it. And that was just my granddad's living room, right? The daily talk about Southampton wasn't a broadcast thing. That was just what we did every day when we popped round Nan's to see granddad. Like, that was it. I mean, that and how much we'd won or lost on the horses, but that's a story for another day. That's a whole different family hand-me-down. But look, I mean, all of this, and that's just the one club that I've been able to get any information that he played for. And so, look, if anyone's listening and has any links to any of the other clubs, any Exeter or Poole or Yeovil links, and manages to find anything they want to hit me up with, hit us up on the GSPN Daily Southampton socials. I would love to see it. I can't wait to see if anything comes from it. But even if it doesn't, I'm so happy that I've got those memories and that link, and I guess that you can see and understand why Southampton and football means so much to me, because it's literally it's just in the blood. You can't help it. No one. Let's face it. No one chooses to be a Southampton fan, right? Like.
You're right. Like none of us choose to put ourselves through the pain of last season, right? And
Yeah.
I think
But
you're
that's
right.
what makes it so special and so great that we all are. We all have that link, and I'm sure that every single one of you listening has maybe not as quite a wilder story, but definitely those links to family and why it's so important in that community. So let us know them in the socials. It'll be great to hear.
Fascinating.
Why are you a Saints fan? That's the question we want answered, and we're not trained therapists, but we're open for all of that that will come with it.
I just wanted to say, mate, on behalf of myself and the people that are listening, it's been a privilege to hear this, and it's a lot of personal information, but it's information that's fascinating. It's important. I'm glad that your dad's story can be told, and that information is there for you, and these memories that they're something that are really, really important and special to you, and I think it's worth acknowledging that. Thank you for giving that to us and allowing us to reflect on that and experiencing it with you. Because from my perspective, I've specifically never asked you too much about it in recent times when you were like, I think I'm going to put an episode together. So I don't want to spoil myself. And it's fascinating. And I'm just really, really glad you've got those memories, and thank you so much for sharing with us, because it's really appreciate it.
It's great, and I hope that my aim is to take my kids away to the Valley, hopefully this season, and see if we can find any of that stuff. See if we can walk into a club shop and find a picture of my dad. That'll be insane. Just to bring it full loop and pass on those same experiences to my kids that I had. That's the hope. But yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Everyone. It's been a bit self-indulgent, but I've really enjoyed the trip through history. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Let us know your stories on all the socials. We'll be back tomorrow, and we're coming back Saints. We're looking forward to our most exciting fixtures as we get into fixture day. And I'm just going to tell you now, Zach, I want to know who you want to draw in the Carabao Cup, so get those answers prepped. But until then, we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.